Hi, my friends. Welcome back to Tug of Heart. You're here today with Lori and Steve and John, actually. Leroy is out doing his thing right now. I miss him terribly.
I miss Leroy
You're going to
too.
miss hearing him too when you hear
Yes,
these because you're going to have to
absolutely.
hear with yourself, which is to me a beautiful thing. To Leroy, it'll be a beautiful thing, but it'll be different for you because you get 2 doses of him a week, right?
Yes.
Steve, we were talking about Hearts United, and this is the second episode, which I knew it would take at least two. I don't even know that we will finish today. I think I might even end up doing a third with Leroy following this. You want to give a quick rundown where we left off? Even though you're not used to doing this, but you're in. You're all in.
Oops. Okay. We're talking about Hearts United and what that means and why that's just objectively attractive to the community at large. We discussed that it's attractive because of the manifestations of that unity, which could be harmony or being in sync, strength, and so on and so forth. But that unity, we kind of try to differentiate between the visible so-called unity between two entities in bond and in bondage. And of course, there are totally different forces there that are acting within those entities. Then we moved on to basically the openness of heart that is called for to even think about unity with another person, because it has to start with yourself first and be someone of integrity. And Bella brought in that since it's a work in progress, it might be impractical to achieve wholeness before you reach out. And of course, she's right. I would say that relationships help us understand ourselves better, even, and form that sense of communion within ourselves as we reach out to others. And that bond, which is love, is so powerful and without boundaries or without known boundaries, that a mystic who is out there all alone somewhere almost prays love into the world, and the world is somehow a better place through the miracle of that communication.
I think that's where we kind of left off, right? So I wanted to get a little bit more into how hearts actually unite, in if you want to call it the physicality of it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the difficult things that happens when we begin to talk about the heart and unity is you mentioned grace in our previous talk, and how it is a kind of grace that through grace, I guess is how you framed it, that we become more whole within ourselves, and that also through grace we are able to, there's a manifestation, which I would call the expression, and it's also through grace that other people hear it for what it is, and not as something else and get it wrong. We misunderstand each other all the time, and it's at best embarrassing, a little bit of shame. At worst, it's dividing.
Right.
Flat out dividing.
This is so right on. For hearts to be united, I was thinking about the importance of communication, which can be like through word or through nonverbal means. Regardless, when I say the word of love is spoken, it has to be spoken or communicated. The clarity of what those words mean sometimes needs a little more work into how we, define things. Bella and I, on our way here, as I often play, we're talking about how different words mean entirely different things in different contexts. And some words are quote-unquote trigger words, and the moment you hear the word or that particular word, all communication ceases. But then, to foster unity, communication should be there so that with open hearts. Bella was talking about this imaginary talk show. We just don't call it that.
That's my mental podcast. I always say if Steve should have like a whole window of free time in his life, but I don't wish for it too hard because the way that it would come about might not be good for our retirement. But should it happen, I always think I would want to do a podcast called Just Don't Call It That. Because one of the things that I find, and actually I'll speak a moment on this, is that people so often want the same things. We are made with the same nature.
That's
Me and
correct.
another human being, there's just not getting around that.
Right.
That there is the same something, je ne sais quoi, essence. I don't know what you want to call it. There is a something within that you can name me human.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of know what I mean. All these other names and stuff. I'm just saying a human.
Mm-hmm.
I have something in common with every other human.
Right.
Okay? But so when I say just don't call it that, a lot of times I'm thinking, I'll hear two people like really arguing, and I'm like, how can this be? Okay, for example, on social media, I will have two very good friends, and they have very aggressive opposing views.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these each are equally amazing, tremendous, beautiful souls. How can such a counter view in this encounter be? It does not seem possible. And it comes, a lot of it comes from language because, a lot of, when we talk about the heart and you talk about wholeness of self in the personhood, right? A big part of that, early in life, I always think that we begin life kind of learning, testing, understanding the world in terms of predictability.
Mm-hmm.
That's just basic survival.
Right.
I go in the road. Hopefully that equates to we felt our collar yanked back, not hit by a car.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough that we don't run to roads because we have that association.
We learned it early, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side is that we make associations that aren't always sensible. And I'll take it to the next level beyond just sensible, because when we say sensible, we're talking about the reliability of our senses. Now, our
Right.
senses do not have judgment.
Right.
Our senses are just our senses. That's it. It sent a message.
Info.
Now the judgment comes from the mind.
Discernment, yes.
Yes, and how it interprets that sensation, that input of information that was just objective.
Right.
It just was. Do I not run in the road because a car will hit me, or do I not run in the road because I don't like my collar yanked? Hopefully, you've made the proper,
Connection.
Yeah,
Right,
and
right,
your
right.
context is right, that it's not like. And that's one of the problems people would say with, like, say, corporal punishment, if you want to call that, well, you see very little, or just discipline in the home is now what was very normal for me growing up and you growing up would now be considered corporal.
Yes.
And that's because the association is you don't go in the road because act of violence from mom. Where when we were growing up, it was more don't go in the road because mom will yank your collar to spare your life. It's very different.
Sure.
Or give you a good swat because she'd rather you're scared to death than scared at the moment of death.
Right,
And then death occurs. That was a tangent. But so we come to this place with words where we're not even talking about the same meaning of a word, but we move forward with the conversation with this terrible, terrible, just wrecking handicap in it.
Right.
It is doomed because we're not even calling whatever word it is before us the same thing. Unity,
Right.
left and right. We don't mean the same thing.
Right.
I may mean old fashioned. Another person means, if I say I don't even know what left and
Yeah.
right. I honestly don't even know between the two groups. But let's just take politics for example. Okay, so it comes back to me when we say where do we begin in unity? The one thing that I think of that's a commonality and where we could begin is what we kind of spoke to in our last talk, and that's the natural desire for happiness.
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody can deny that we have this in common, and that is innate. This drive, desire, search. For some people will call it meaning, some will call it levity, some will call it love, some will call it sacrifice. Whatever you call it, it is happiness.
Happiness, yes.
That's the most basic. Now, where we differ is, and actually we were talking about, maybe I'll post it because I don't even have it here, but I had scribbled out a poem for Maddie Cheer's topic on this, and it was actually wait in the middle, and because I was just scribbling notes actually as I was driving, which I don't recommend. Don't do this. And it was like, wait a minute, what am I even talking? And it was me stopping myself in the middle of writing it. So I was making this list of da 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 da. This is how we get to heart unity. And I'm like, wait, I didn't even define what happiness is.
Yeah.
I can't begin to examine anything else if I don't even know that we agree what this is, or whether it matters if we do, or if it's just enough to understand that person contains that longing, that's something within them. And the thing is, once we know we want happiness, it is kind of the heart's work to direct the rest of our faculties towards what we deem to be the achievement of that, in a sense, right? The thing is that we get in our own way.
Sure.
Nobody has to disappoint me. I say this all the time. Nobody has to do a thing to me in life. I will, whatever damage needs to be done to me, you can guarantee I'll do it to myself. But by the rules of engagement, and because we are relational, we get in one another's way as well, with our own thinking or non-thinking. And that answers the question right there when I started saying like left and right, and I don't know again which party is which. I get them mixed up, and I don't care because this isn't about politics, but it's about ideologies. And what I was actually telling you on the way here, I said the second one we should kind of talk about ideologies, and I think I got as far as telling you like the thing with ideologies, they wear us out.
Sure.
Or we try to mend somebody's ideology that we see inaccurate by countering with one of our own, or by countering with one that we think will land right to neutralize the other. But the heart's and humanity and happiness is not an ideology.
Wow. Yes.
That's let's just start there, and then I want to tell you a metaphor if we can, because I think when we get into like the mystery stuff, we can only talk logically sometimes in metaphor. But what do you think about that part? Because the heart's there is no ideology.
I don't.
It's
I
life.
think you're right on. Correct.
Right.
Yes. I believe ideology. Well, like we said, the eternal quest of a human being is happiness. And I said eternal because that's the ultimate end of a human being, is bliss, or at least the direction that a human being strives for is happiness.
The ultimate end is happiness. We can agree on that.
Right.
How long it lasts is
There we go.
up to the individual.
And the previous talk, we were talking about how painful the process is towards before happiness. And
the cost, yeah.
yes, and often we want some relief from the torment or the pain or the anguish or the angst. And sure enough, there are like enough and more shortcuts, opportunities, for example, that social media offers. I'm not on any social media for probably
Good
that
for
reason
you.
because it's it almost seems like one person's happiness depends on another person's misery, and to almost directly cause that misery will make the first person happy. I don't get that because that's not how human beings work in real life. In social media, you can call each other names apparently, and shut out the conversation. But the thought of the shortcuts that are offered by the world, they're kind of like how would I say this? Summate into an ideology. You want, for example, let's go with it. Okay, so fossil fuels are not good. Green energy is good. Probably no arguing with that. The process, how we get there, is what I understand is the problem. Like how quick you want to do it and at what cost and so on. Being kind to nature sounds good. Because if nature is happy, we are happy. Again, so the motive seems to be directing humanity towards what a person feels or a leader feels or society feels as happiness by having an environmentally friendly earth. Fine. How is that to happen is where a lot of talk and name-calling seems to happen.
Right.
And almost like this great divide between two very reasonable people deteriorates to name calling. Each calls the other one fool, and there's no more conversation once names. You're labeled as one party affiliate or another, and that's kind of divisive. Which in that fight, nothing really seems to be happening. Your primary motive of a friendly environment, that aim is lost into more friction being generated between people.
And I'm going to interrupt you here because this to me epitomizes where we go wrong with definitions. Because what happens when you reach that point where how does this happen? And name calling, okay?
Right.
I call you just an imbecile,
Right.
dummy, ignorant, simple, dull. Do I still remember we saw that from Dwight? I don't know. Anyways, but as soon as I say that, and then I say, and I'm me, okay? It would be one thing to say you're ignorant. I would like to share information with you. It would be another thing when we start to know that we are more caught up in ideologies without even having to stopped to take a look at the words,
Yes.
what we're talking
Yes.
about. You kind of know you've entered that when you have switched the definition, knowingly or not. It doesn't matter. You're in the same place where you define something as what you're not, or you define yourself, or you define where an accusation to another person, your accusation by definition is you're not what I am. That's not a definition.
Right.
Okay? Or who am I? I'm whatever you're not. I don't like you.
Right.
And so I think I've heard you say this ages ago, but it holds today where pretty soon that ideology wrapped around that terminology begins to guide me more than an ideal.
Oh, wow. Yes.
So what happens is I see you do something and I'm just not going to do that. You know why? Because my definition somewhere along the line changed to who I am is whatever the heck you are not. So I define myself by not being you. The funny thing about this to me is I see people do this so often and I'm like, then person A is still controlling person B.
Sure.
Because whatever they do, you do the opposite.
Yeah.
You've lost freedom. You are so bound
Yeah.
against your will because you have set your own premises, whatever they're not. So every action they take is who you are not. By default. That's like a little bit far to go. I want to come back to where we were, but that's the problem with name calling.
Correct.
In one sense, and defining things inaccurately. We call people wrong, evil, bad, stupid, when the right word, a lot of times in humanity, gosh, I wish I could hear this more for myself when I do it, is mistaken. What a difference to say
maybe you are mistaken.
Or that's not wrong, but it's not complete. Instead of saying that is so wrong. No, is it? Or is it just incomplete? What if you were ever where this person is ever in your life, but you've taken it a little bit further? Can you not bring them with you through the path? Or would you not, if it was your own child, you're holding hands with the person you love most in this life, your spouse, a friend, your bestie, and they kind of fell behind, you wouldn't turn back and meet them a little bit?
Well, yeah.
But for somebody else, by definition, we're not going to because they weren't mistaken. They meant to be back there because they don't want to be with me. So now my definition is I don't want to be with them.
I'm not them. Yeah.
And it becomes very weird. So the point here is ideologies. I started by saying that they wear the heart out. The thing is, we use ideologies sometimes as a way to make it like almost. I think you use the word, I can't say it, assuage, soothing, assuage. So to kind of soothe ourselves that I'm being proactive here. So I've embraced an ideology. I feel proactive in my condition, and that's a lot. And you can't fault people for doing that. However, to what end if the ideology is not complete, as I said? So there's this time, this might sound like a tangent, but I'm hoping together we can bring this back to kind of what I'm hoping it will be. I had heard in a talk one time, and I don't remember who said it, and the only, you get an image and that's what you remember. But somebody had referred to our heart as containing an Icarus in it.
Icarus, yes.
Icarus,
yes,
okay,
yes.
Greek. And I hold this picture even today, and it kind of came up as we were talking about, like when I think of ideologies. Now, part of the heart is mystery, and I had said initially, so you have to talk about it kind of metaphor to point out mystery and to make a safe space sometimes for differing people to talk about something comfortably.
Right.
A and B don't see it, so let's talk about C and hypotheticals. But so Icarius is the son of Daedalus.
Daedalus, yes.
Okay, who's a craftsman. He made the labyrinth, and Icarus is the guy, brilliant ideology. He makes. He's stuck in. Is it? How do you say it? Creed? Is he in Creed?
Correct.
Crete. I knew there was something like Crete. He is stuck and he wants out. And him and his father master plan wax and feathers, and he makes wings. And so just to back up a minute, when somebody says there's an Icarus in our heart, that is, they're speaking of our nature.
Right.
Not of this guy, but we'll take it that next step after. And by nature, our heart wants to, there is something in us that does want to fly.
Yes.
We are made, we know. I can't explain why, but I don't feel right with this weight that keeps me bound to the earth. I feel more.
Yeah.
There are people who speak as high as the universe. Oh, consciousness is all the universe. I can't help as a human myself that I feel made for even more than that. I'm made for more than the universe, in my opinion, in my feeling, in my heart. And so to me, that is the Icarus. Now, how to resolve this in our heart. An ideology to me So my metaphor is that Icarus, he makes these wings of wax and feathers, and decent idea. He's warned, I can't remember by who, not to fly too close to the sun.
Yeah.
Wax and feathers. Here's the thing. This is a Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
And it also does point to ideologies. And the problem is, it's a pretty neutral and decent idea, a darn good idea, actually, if I'm honest, right? Make
Right.
wax and feathers and escape. Brilliant.
Right.
What we fail to see in ourselves, what Icarus failed to see, of course, is if you say we have an Icarus in our heart and for him to be within himself, hubris, ego. And what goes wrong? You've been warned. You have an idea, ideology. You run with it, but then you feel the lift, and it feels so in line with what you know of yourself.
Right.
That's right. I'm flying. This is in line with how I feel I am. This is it. This is it. Everybody follow me. But
Right.
to what end? Because this
Right.
guy flew, and once he got a little taste that felt like his nature, the part he forgot is the hubris. And that fed the hubris. It was no longer, I'm to escape the city to the other side to freedom, this idea
Right.
of freedom. But it quickly turned to something more where ego is fed and he wants to keep going, even against common sense. And he goes up to the sun, melts. It's his death.
Yeah.
This is his doom.
Right.
And so I think this points to like where we go wrong with ideologies. They can be the beginning of something. But it's not the full story. It may have been just to get this into freedom, and then you have to that escape into freedom. Freedom is only your premise for the next step
Right.
of reaching that true feeling of flight or whatever that you should be in. So starting with that, and in terms of unity, what do you think about ideologies and how we try to find unity in ideologies and we get tripped up?
Excellent. One of my thoughts about this is that with so much of being bombarded every day from so many different sources about so many events and news, we do have a limited attention span.
What's
and a limited
I wasn't paying
attention.
attention. I'm just kidding.
Got me. She got me again. So either I get your attention really quick or I lose you. So ideologies then, what does this particular ideology mean? And the common way to reach out to your audience is through slogans. Slogans are catchy, are meant to be catchy. And let me say, make America great again sounds great. Like, what's wrong with making America great, right? But this is exactly a conversation that played out not too long, quite a while ago.
And here's the thing with definitions. I'm sorry, but it quickly goes from "Make America Great Again" to "I'll do you one more." Do you want to be one of them megas?
Yeah.
So you have the two ideas.
And I had no idea. And honestly, I was not too involved in politics. And I was like, what's wrong with making America great? And,
Oh no!
and from the retort back was, so you don't like environmental friendly policies? And I'm like, what? And, so the slogan, which was catchy, had other connotations which were not discussed through, but the assumptions were made very quickly and the conversation ended. They also called me kind of a racist, but which was funny. But so slogans slogans which kind of push your ideology without the heart being in it, and heart cannot be in it until there's further clarification with an open heart on both sides. Because, if If happiness is the end goal, and then we are all talking the same language, and you're communicating what would be happy, even in a family. Wouldn't you want to go on a vacation? Oh, absolutely. Well, we need to budget for that to happen. Oh, that sucks. Okay. But that's how it's going to happen if you want a good vacation, which means we can't order out or, however budgeting happens.
I feel like you're talking to me personally.
No,
Okay.
not at all. No, no.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, so until the head of household, for example, discusses what that means for that envisaging happiness for that family, things have to be discussed. Or if it is unilaterally made, it kind of like what happened? Where why are we not having enough food in the house? Or things without clear communication. That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to interrupt you here because this brings me to a thought that I think you can expand upon probably better than I. So we've said the heart and ideologies can be the beginning of something, but and then you're speaking about ideologies can be a shortcut, and then we shortcut the shortcut by abbreviating them with slogans.
Yes.
And the funny thing with that is it becomes almost like people are trying to make an impulse sale. And one of the things that I find, I remember, and I'm gonna say Maddie Cheers. Actually, I heard this from her one time, which is what gave me this idea. I've thought about it since, because she was like, I don't understand. Children have access to the internet, and I hope I'm not misquoting her. And they could just look up Buddhism and learn about it,
right.
And how do they not know about this? Or it would like it would be so easily resolved with access to the whole world's libraries right now. Information.
Yes.
And I had thought about it for a while that she said that. It's funny, I just thought of it now. And one of the things that I thought over time was, even if to have access to things so quickly, you cannot know a philosophy without practice.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And that might be the problem, is that we're providing flashes of slogans, Buddhism and like a Zen picture and kind of artsy to have the draw, but they can't know what it really is outside of practice.
Yes.
Based on my own personal beliefs, I've come to this decision a few years ago, maybe more, I don't know. I don't have time I've not had time up outside of my last, if you want to call it a revelation of truth, to explore other options, because there's a certain amount of practice due
Right.
in response to revelation, where I can't entertain everything. So the reason that I say that is we can't exhaust everything. So how do we hone in on what is right for us? And you were talking about family, and just so you know, I don't know that people say head of household anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I think just the IRS. I think you can add what do they call patriarchal or something. If you say, I don't know, or matriarchal, I don't know if either is good. I'm not sure. I don't know, because I don't do too much politics. I don't know if we can say head of household, or is that's like sexist.
I don't know.
He meant me, guys.
That's right.
My voice is deep. I'm a woman. Anyways, we're matriarchal. No, but anyways, how do we kind of sift through all of this stuff and reasonableness? If you can just toss that into what you were saying, is
Right.
all I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's a blessing to have that kind of a revelation. And I believe every human being at some point in time has that revelation, and it's life-changing. It depends on what how deep you want to go into it.
Well,
or
in
not.
many,
Yeah.
if somebody has a revelation of Buddhism or wherever
course.
it is, they, through reason and reasonableness, would know whether it falls in line with what they know of life itself and their experience.
Right. even with philosophy, it has to make sense at every level. To the mind, to the logic.
It has to hold up against.
Correct, and in the
Yeah.
holding up against is where you kind of pit your revelation against what the experiences of, or as you put it, as other options. It has to line up. It has to be consistent. It has to hold
That predictability we talked about early in life.
based on truth.
Right.
And the thing is, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already done. So by charting new territory, yes, you can ultimately arrive at the truth if the truth is that big, and you will reach there. How would I say? So our life here is limited.
I want to add one more thing that Maddie said more recent. This is months after that, and one of the truest things I've heard said is, it's enough to want the truth, or to have your intentions set on that, and things are already kind of moving.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
no.
just wanted to include that because
There is a power of truth where, it has to. So revelation is revelation of what? Of truth, of a greater truth beyond words. And then it can be mind-boggling. It can cause even a great disturbance in your soul. But truth is the truth, and then what is a question? And then you pit your revelation against other choices, and then if it doesn't make sense, it falls away, and then you hold on to that truth. And it's almost a clinical outlook there, where terms are being defined, life goals are being defined. In the pursuit of happiness itself, right? Because truth should lead to that to real true happiness. Are we ready for that? If not, then revisit or take a break. But
tell me, in terms of Hearts United, if you can just build on that a little, because you have my attention here in a new way.
Uh-oh. How would I say? So,
like, how would I know if somebody says, hey, this is truth, without getting into historical authority, just somebody seems reasonably authoritative? Just in passing. I don't want to get into arguing,
Right.
The history of authority or anything like that.
right. Most often, like, the information that we get is already prejudiced into our minds through media and so on and so forth. But
Right.
straight up, like Bella was saying earlier, we just get our senses stimulated. That's just data. The mind then takes over and interprets that data. Now, did that?
So the Zen picture, it's information and you get a certain feeling,
Right.
but reason is
Be,
is above feeling in the order of truth.
Sure. So
Right.
feeling, if it lasts, feeling is almost like a struck match. It's very bright, lasts a little bit, generates a lot of heat, and it can go away. And you try to recreate that, you strike another match, but then that's not practical. How would I say? Okay.
Well, I would go a step further, if I'm understanding where you're headed, if I'm reading your mind.
Uh-oh.
It'd be like trying to restrike that same match, and you're missing
same match.
you're missing the essence of what's happened.
Right.
Because you're trying to strike now carbon.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right? And you're like, why can't I repeat this? Why can't I? Because that's as far as that would take you.
Right.
And you can't repeat the same action, because when we arrive to even that tiniest tip of a match worth of truth, that's only the premise for the next thing.
Correct.
So to the rest of our life wearing the match down to nothing, is like we've missed something in because I'll say this and you can expand, because what we've missed is, what does it point to?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
How about that?
Right. The fact that there's this little light in your hand points to the fact that there is a bigger light and beyond the sun, even, or
So you're
beyond the
very
stars.
drawn to that, right?
Right. So you get a spark of the truth, and then however that truth came into you through your senses, your brain interprets that truth for you.
So it's not chasing the feeling; it's chasing the science. To how do I turn this to a sustained flame,
Right.
instead of bam bam strike rock again, whatever you want to say. We're a little more evolved than that, you know.
Right,
So.
right. Yeah.
And in terms of relationally and coming together, how would this translate even? Like, so when we see somebody doing something that seems, because then we could say a lot of things that people do sounds pretty, looks pretty.
Mm-hmm.
That's enticing. It looks like a flame.
Mm-hmm.
But it may be a very short flame.
Sure.
Versus something sustainable,
Right.
which is more grounded in truth. It can be, it has the staying power truth has, right?
Right. That's foundational to life, right? Where the fluff has gone away, feelings are gone. What truth is the truth. So I often feel like love is more than just the feeling, you know, that sparks into, sparks hearts to be united. But if that's all there is, then you're trying to create friction and create that spark. But love is more than that, because it's not two now, but one. And in that oneness, like, not saying that boundaries go away, but boundaries are redefined in this new bond, which then translates also out into society, or what we call as the greater good. Looking out for each other, looking out for each other's happiness. Is that altruistic or is that natural? Yes. It's both.
Right. We have just a few minutes here, so I do want to say, when you say looking out for one another's happiness, and for me it always comes back to, how do I know I'm in a place for unity, or that I'm not at least hindering unity.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not actively making it happen. And I think we, there's an ebb and flow to where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I pull back for my own recovery. We talked about the wearing down from ideologies, and it's a lot of work. Unification is. So when we're saying being altruistic, I think what it comes down to is finding it within yourself. And if you must put an effort, take back a little of that fight, because that's a lot of energy. Take back a little of that fight. And even if you may find that it's as much fight to be able to do this inside yourself as you have been giving and pressing against the entire world, but instead take the fight indoors in your heart and fight for against any part of you that does not want good for the Make America Great Again people. The people that hate the Make America Great Again people. You have to equally want good for both, or you're not yet for unity.
Right.
The worst. Who is the devil in your life? Who's the thorn in your side? Do you want good for them? If you have been out there just fighting against them, say, and sometimes we do have to just take a break and say, I'm taking a break, and the fight, don't worry, you like a good fight. There will be plenty of fight inside yourself, just to say, my fight right now is wanting good for them, and then I'll go back out and fight some more. But I've got the fight wrong. The premise is wrong. It was ideological, and I'm not entering into unity, like I said, in practice, only in name when I'm out there fighting, but calling it unity. So let me take this private fight inside. And when I want good for the worst of you all, I'm ready to come out and fight a little bit more. And I think that goes back to what you were saying before, which is the manifestation of our inner life, I guess I would call it, but the inside, the heart, the core of our being. Then in practice, we're still manifesting what we should. If a fight just makes you feel more alive, fight. But direct it the correct way. If you're fighting to say to somebody, I want unity, this only comes from you, define your own nature to be with me. Now, how do we expect them to do that? Is our own nature to get it all right? No, not yet. Not that I've personally experienced. How about you?
No.
You got it all right? So who are we to ask that other people are perfect, to want good for them? And by default, to want good for people is a kind of hoping that what is not right that they're doing or that's being done to them falls away, while at the same time being able to say, I'm not saying with assurance I can name that, but I still wish this for them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to define it because definitions get messed up, like we said.
Yeah. A slogan just popped into my head.
Go ahead, make a mess. Do your worst.
Okay. Make America happy again.
Aw, too close. See, too much trigger. You get.
And if you want to know what's happiness, then listen to the podcast, right?
I think it's so funny how, like, just to make America anything, it's like. It's such a stumbling block to even begin to say anything like that. It is funny and it's ironic.
Yeah.
I do think Leroy and I will have to take the next step from here, and I'm not sure what it is. What do you think? What's left unanswered besides everything?
Oh, he's going to bring a whole different dynamic.
Oh,
into
yeah,
this
he
that I
always
can't
is.
wait.
Reasonableness. I can't wait to hear Leroy, the king of reasonable. That's a dig at him just for not being here today. No, I'm really happy for him. He's actually moving into a new home.
Oh,
and as everybody struggles and fights, he happened to catch a good window where things could kind of happen. Good for him. I'm very happy for him. And I want good for him. I truly do. I love my brother. Can you imagine when, in the same way as I want good for you, for him, for Maddie, because she did inspire this, and I feel like I'm better at doing it today, but so far from perfect. I'd have to think of who really just gets under my skin, and when I can want good for them at that same level, and by level, not in intensity, but pureness. You talked about the integrity.
Yeah.
With the same amount of pureness, I purely just want what's good for them. When somebody does something bad, I'm not complaining because it offends me, but I don't want this damage for them. Right?
Yep.
That's what we're here to try to do. I mean, I don't know. It'll probably take a long time because I'm not there.
It's a process.
Yes,
always.
it is. But here we go. I appreciate you joining me. And thank you, those of you who are listening and have also joined. I hope this wasn't too scattered. It might be, but que sera, this is us. We're a lovely mess together. Thanks again. I love you, Bella. Thank you.
I love you too, Baba.
So until next time, you can like and share the podcast. Also, don't forget to like and share Strong Island. Thank you, Bobby, for all the work you do. He's oh my gosh,
Yeah,
Bobby's doing
awesome.
it.
He's terrific.
I think 2022 is going to be his year, in a very special way. And let's all pray. Let's all want good for Bobby in a way we pray for it specifically. So until next time, farewell, guys.
Farewell.